I was 20 years old. I said, I can't be in this world anymore. I couldn't be in this environment. It was very toxic. And so I needed to find a way to get back to Minneapolis. And I started applying for jobs down in Minneapolis, odd jobs, working overnights at warehouses where I'm the only person that spoke English. And I just had to figure it out. Taking naps in my car because I had no place. I didn't renew my lease in St. Cloud, so my friends would let me sleep on their couch until I made another status of anyone that, hey, could take me in. This is me, 20 years old, entrepreneur guy. And the family that took me in when I made that Twitter tweet back in 2012, that took me back in 2015. And I was very blessed and humble for them to re-welcome me in my transition of growth. And I stayed with them for 6 months, rent-free, in the same spot as I was. Now, this is me at 22 years old. I'm in a lot of college debt. Debt collectors are calling because obviously I used to be them, so I know the numbers that pop up. And I felt that Minnesota wasn't working for me. I was planting all the right seeds, networking, shaking hands, but it just wasn't for me. But I had a friend that was always saying, "Hey, man, you have no girlfriend. You're making money online virtually through my affiliate links and stuff. Come down to Florida." So I said, "Okay, I'll make it work." At 22 years old, I jumped in my car. I sold all the stuff that I had on me, my computer, and had enough gas money to get to Memphis. And that's where I'm from. I'm from Memphis. So I stayed with my mom for 3 months, trying to make it work, trying to get money, working odd jobs, working at the fair, the state fair that happens in Tennessee, and people just speaking life into me, believing in me. And I'm a snot-nosed kid who just has his big dreams, but I barely have $5 to rub together. And then family rallied together to push me to go to Florida. I went to Florida, and Florida was hot, a lot hotter than Minnesota. And I lived off my friend's couch for 3 months straight. Barely, I was working, I had a job at working, I was at a job, I was one of those guys at the Sam's Club selling DirecTV. When you go to Walmart, you go to Target, and those guys are trying to sell you some overpriced Xfinity process. That was me. I was that guy trying to make it work, and I lasted probably 2 weeks. I got my first paycheck that covered enough gas, and Florida was not working. And I had met a girl in Minnesota at that time. She said, "You can come back to Minnesota." So I eventually did the same thing, packed my car up, said sorry to my buddy, sorry I couldn't pay for rent, and came back to Minnesota. And that's where it was a transition of growth. And once I came back to Minnesota, I had a job as a marketing and research assistant, making part-time job, really only making no more than $800 a month. On the side, I'm speaking to kids. I'm pushing my speaking business. I'm trying to push this book, one of my first books. And I kept just networking. And I eventually got to a point where I got a decent paying job as an e-commerce manager. I was helping businesses. I was helping a business online in St. Paul establish themselves on their online presence, because I had built a brand for myself, SEO marketing and stuff like that. And it was one of the highest paying jobs I had at that time. I was making over $50,000, a salary as a kid who doesn't have a degree. That's pretty decent. And I learned a lot in those 6 months. I lasted that job for 6 months because I'm an entrepreneur. And I learned, and corporate was not for me, because the times that I was trying to expand my real business, my speaking business, the business that brings me passion and joy, was the same time that I had to go to work. The same time that a CEO at Best Buy wants to meet at 10 a.m., I got to go to work at 9. So I eventually started getting the whispers at work, and I just knew what was happening. And my relationship at that time was not going well with the person I was with at that time. And so the same month that I got fired from that nice paying job was the same month that I got dumped, was also the same month that I had to go through Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And this is all at 23 years old. And the day that I got dumped, the very next day, I had an interview with PBS over in Twin Cities, because they had picked up my story as an entrepreneur. And I was working an overnight job, making dishwasher knobs, making literally $11 an hour. I would drive down to Shakopee. I'm the only English speaking person. But in the daytime, I'm going and getting interviewed by PBS about how successful I am, and really that fake it till you make it story. And it really brought me to really go down my passion, which was I've always wanted to get into the world of mental health. As a person who's had to overcome so many different things internally, I wanted to be around people who are still going through that struggle. So I eventually got a job as an overnight PCA, which I still do. I've been doing this for 4 years. At night, I work from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. as an overnight PCA. And then in the daytime, fast forward to today, I'm 27. I'm a landlord. I own my own duplex. I rent it out. My renter's downstairs. The rent that they pay pays the mortgage. So I just pay for my utilities upstairs. I live virtually free. I am now the CEO of Optimum Outreach, which is a telecom brokerage. We help businesses with their phone, TV, internet, and wireless services. I've written 2 books outside of the first book. My first book is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, the Pocketbook's Guide for Success. And then my most recent book is called The Essence of Inspiration, a book where I help individuals discover who they are by, again, we all get inspired in our life. But how do we actually scale ourselves once we get inspired? We'll scroll on Facebook, we'll see a good video that makes us feel all good inside, but sometimes we don't actually do anything with that. And as a person who gets inspired by conversations, I started to network with so many like-minded folks that spoke life into me at a time that, again, I was still just trying to figure out. And even at this age right now, 27, I'm still trying to figure it out. And what I've learned in the transition of growth is you have to be humble and you have to have a humility towards where you want to be. Because for where you want to go in life, someone's already been there, someone's already gone there, and many people have already written a testimony of how to get there. It's in a book, Think and Grow Rich. All the different books that people forget that why there's a library, we forget that we can really get to where we want to go. We just have to ask enough people who've been there. And so fast forward today, I'm in a frequency of prosperity, happiness, and gratitude. In a couple of months, I'll be able to purchase my second property, a 4-plex. My big goal as an entrepreneur was always to retire my mother. Unfortunately, COVID retired her before I could, but I'm still in that frequency of that. As I continue to expand my network and my net worth, I'm looking to assist my family. My entire family lives in Tennessee. I'm the only family that chooses to stay in the cold, and it's just been a humbling ride to where I was, to where I'm headed, and where I'm currently at.
Oh my goodness, what a story. Wow. You know, you are the perfect example of that entrepreneur that comes to the wall, sees that wall, and starts looking immediately. Am I going to go over it? Am I going to go around it? You know, am I going to go under it? And if there's no way to go over it, under it, or around it, I'm going to go through. We're just going to go through and we're going to bust through that wall. And, you know, life isn't perfect, and not everyone grows up in beds of roses and has everything handed to them. And there are lots of us, myself included, that have had to work and claw and just really just, you know, put in every amount of effort to make it, and have all those shortfalls and get back up again and do it again. And so, you know, I want to just say how inspired I am by your story, and how that you haven't given up. And every time you got knocked down, you got back up and you did it again. And I'm certain that our audience that's watching and listening, you know, right now are going, you know what? Maybe I haven't had it so bad. Maybe my pitfalls wasn't so low. Maybe, you know, or if I'm in that spot right now, that there's a way out, you know, that there is a way to be more successful. So you mentioned several books that you've read along the way. You've authored some books of your own. You mentioned The Secret, which I'm also a big fan of. I love that you watched that 30 days in a row. I used to hold viewing sessions of The Secret. Like, I'd like, come watch this with me. You need to see this with me. And if it resonated with people, I knew that it was people I wanted to spend more time with. And so, what are you watching or reading today? What's got you inspired in this moment, right now, at this spot in your life?
Me meeting like-minded people. Really, I continue to meet people in their transition of growth. And in my mind, I've been there, done that, but let's get you through this. And so I talk to a lot of folks. I'm highly active, even though we're in this COVID world. We're also in a virtual world where what inspires me now is just knowing that, you know, people want to grow in their life, and I may know someone who can help them. I would say right now I'm a bridge. A lot of people who want to get into real estate, they want to be homeowners. I can either point you to my realtor, point you to my loan officer, point you in the right direction, because that's what eventually happened to me. I kept asking people, hey, how do I be a speaker? Hey, how do I get in front of an audience? Hey, how do I do these things that I aspire to do? And it really is just paying it forward. And I'm still planting the seed. I'm still growing. I'm still doing all these different things. And I'm listening to the book that I just recently finished reading, was the 5 signs of love, the 5 love languages. So yes. I'm in a sense of self-growth, self-love, and discovering what ways I would love to be loved, because I'm such a giver. And as a giver, we all know that once you give, you'll be left out with nothing. So I'm now in a stage of like, all right, it's okay being alone. It's okay just taking myself out for breakfast, not having someone to spend quality time with, or in my sense, I call it swiping right for Miss Right. You recently got married. I saw that last year, a couple years ago.
Yes.
That's what my aspirations are. And I have a really funny business partner, and he has an amazing family, and he's a married man. So as a person who's a bachelor, 27-year-old, wild, crazy entrepreneur, I now also have a person that has that balance of being a husband, being a dad, and aspires me to go down that route where I'm a big kid at heart. And for a person who didn't grow up with a father, I want to be able to be the best father. And so for me to go down that route, I'm just planting all the seeds for everything that I'm looking to grow, because I plan to be a stay-at-home dad. Home, everyone's crazy about this COVID of, homeschooling their kids, but I'm looking forward to be at home and teaching my kids, because I love the empowerment that I've learned about self-growth and self-education. And so what inspires me is that I know that whomever that I'm attracting in my life, or for the next stage that I'm going down, that it's going to be a road worthwhile. I'm young at heart, at age, but in a sense of maturity and intellect, I'm around so many people who are over 30, 40, 50, 60, and I've had to grow up a lot faster than many people. So I just got brought in to now teach 8th graders out in St. Paul social justice. So for the month of October, for 6 weeks, I'll be teaching kids, 8th graders, how to be social justice warriors, how to be activists, how to stand for what they believe in, whether it's animal rights, women's rights, whatever the case may be. As a person who's been able to do that in my political life, I used to be a campaign manager for a guy running for mayor of Minneapolis. I've been a part of the 15 Now organization, helping raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And just me getting out of my comfort zone, I've been blessed to speak at the state capitol on generational poverty. How do we do that? How do we overcome it? Let's have a conversation on how we build assets. How do we do these things if we've never done it? Well, I'm around enough people who have assets that have taught me how to build my credit. At 23 years old, I had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So I had a credit score over 415 to now over 695. And it took a lot of growth. It took a lot of just crunching down of being able to do the things that I had always aspired to do, because I really wanted to have a house at 23 years old. I wanted to have a house at 20 years old. But with credit, all the school's debt and stuff, it wasn't plausible. But I kept planting that seed. At 26 years old last year, October 9th, 2019, I bought my first duplex. And so October is next month, and I'll be celebrating my 1 year as a homeowner, a landlord, and living virtually rent-free.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's one of everyone's dreams. I mean, you talk about the American dream, owning a home, and not only owning a home, but you've put yourself in a position where you don't have the house payment because you've got that renter there, that you've took your entrepreneurial spirit and your work ethic and made that happen. That's fantastic. And I'm just going to speak to the audience. He's 27 years old, folks, 27. And that life experience that you've had thus far has really just given you knowledge and experience and foresight that other probably 27-year-olds don't have or haven't had those same experiences. I can think back to when I was 27, and I wasn't where you are today. I was just starting to figure out. I think it was when I hit 30. When I hit 30, I was like, oh man, like I need to get my act together. I need to make some big changes, and I did things like I went and got a will and got that in place. I got life insurance. I did all the things. I'm like half dead. I'm 30 now. I'm 45, and I look back and I go, oh my gosh, I was still so young and still learning. But wow, what a life and what a inspiration it is to hear you share this and share your message with others. And so no matter where you are in life, no matter what you want to accomplish, it's never too late to start and to start again and to start again. And you're a perfect example of that. And so I'd love to know from you, because, you talked about earlier that lady that you had that 3-hour lunch with, and she said, where do you want to be in life? And you gave up all these excuses. And so what's the vision now? What lies ahead for Denarius Lewis.
Yeah. So obviously I said I'm swiping right for Miss Right. So
Yes.